What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NFL's Monday Night Football Showdown slate. We got the Chicago Bears versus the LA Rams. Pretty good real-life football game. Maybe not the best for DFS, but we're still going to get into it and break down the top plays. If you're new to this channel, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on the notification bell. All this stuff really helps me grow. I've had a lot of growth recently. I'm trying to hit 400 subscribers by Thanksgiving, so let's get there. Let's get me there, guys. Give me some new subs today. It takes like 1 second of your time. It's free to use, so go ahead and help me out with that. If you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below for that as well. But I think that's really all I got to say on that. Let's get into the breakdown, where we are going to start with the quarterbacks. Nick Foles, Jared Goff. I always play quarterbacks on Draftkings slates. I don't play him at captain often, and this is going to be a week where I don't play him either. I mean, Jared Goff's 10,400, and for me at captain, that's way too expensive for a quarterback. And I don't really like Nick Foles' spot anyway. I don't really like either of these two spots. I mean, look, the Chicago Bears have allowed the least amount of points to quarterbacks so far in the league this year. The Rams allowed the 20th most, which is still not a lot. This game is only a 45.5 game total. There's probably not going to be a ton of scoring. And for these 2 of the 3 highest players on DraftKings, I don't think the upside is really there for them to score a lot. Both these teams like to run the ball a good bit as well. So this really isn't a spot where I want to attack the quarterbacks at captain. But, I mean, I'm going to play them in the flex spot for sure. If you're playing Allen Robinson, if you're playing Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Darnell Mooney, any of those guys, any pass catchers in the captain spot, you're going to want to pair them with the quarterback pretty much every single time. So that's usually what I do every time I have a receiver or a tight end or a running back like Alvin Kamara, or someone who's not in a slate, but just someone who catches the ball a lot. I like to pair a quarterback with them. So that's what I would be looking to do with these guys, but I want to get a ton of exposure to them. I mean, they're going to be 2 of the higher scores on the slate. I just don't think they score enough to be optimal in the captain spot this week. The line is only 45.5, just not going to be a ton of scoring. So, like, it's not like they're going to have, like, 3 or 4 touchdown games. Like, Allen Robinson gets 1 touchdown, 100 yards. He's going to be the captain. He's going to be the guy in the captain spot you're going to need. But, like, if that's the only touchdown through the air, Nick Foles isn't. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's how I look at quarterbacks. I don't usually like to play them in the captain spot. Like, on Thursday, we had the Eagles-Giants game where there was a ton of value on the slate. Quarterbacks were the way to go. It was like bad defenses. You knew that the upside was there, and Carson Wentz was the optimal captain. So there's different situations when quarterbacks are relevant in the captain spot. I don't think today's one of them. Up next, we're going to go to the running backs on the slate. Wow. Okay. Where you have David Montgomery for the Bears, Malcolm Brown, and Darrell Henderson for the Rams. Montgomery's 8,400. These are all the flex salaries. I mean, the captains are like 1.5x that. So Malcolm Brown 3,400 and Darrell Henderson 8,200 for flex. So Malcolm Brown maybe looking like a little bit of a value. When we go look at the matchup, they do both have actually positive run blocking spot grades here. I mean, they're 2 of the better offensive lines in the league, are the Bears and the Rams right now. The problem with the Bears is they are going to be playing from behind, so David Montgomery maybe not going to be the best spot. The Rams should be playing from ahead, so Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown have definitely good values there. These are 2 good run defensive units, though. I mean, the Rams only allowed 21st most points to running backs, or the 22nd, and the Bears 21st. So, I mean, they're pretty much 2 even running units. When we go look at usage, so ever since Tariq Cohen went out for David Montgomery, or for the Bears, David Montgomery has stepped into a larger role. He's been averaging 13 carries per game, and he's been averaging, the really impressive part, he's averaging 7 targets per game. Like, if you look at weeks 1, 2, and 3, 3, 3, 3, but since then, week 4 and 5 and 6, 6, 8, and 5 targets in every single game. So, and in week 6, they were playing from ahead the whole time, so he didn't really need to get get used in the passing game a ton. So, David Montgomery, I mean, has taken a huge step in his usage. So, I do like that. The one thing I will say is I hate playing David Montgomery. I don't think he's good. I really don't think David Montgomery is just a good football player, and I don't like this matchup against the Rams. I mean, Aaron Donald's a stud. It's going to be a tough spot for him. I don't want to go there in captain, but I'll be playing David Montgomery in a flex spot. I think he's a good flex option for sure. It's just, I do like how the usage has been going for him. He's been getting used way more. I mean, if you even look at the snap percentage since Tariq Cohen's been out, he's been getting in the 80s in snap percentage. He's just a guy now. So the usage is there. I don't really like the matchup, but the usage is definitely there. So, I mean, I'm definitely going to want to play him in flex spot. And I think he's a viable captain. I just don't ever play David Montgomery in captain. It's just not a thing I do. I don't think he's good. He just doesn't ever, he always feels thin to me. It's just one of those running backs like what Joe Mixon was for a while, where it just wasn't productive at all. And I just don't like to get that. Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. So, outside of week 1, so the games when all 3 running backs have have been in for the Rams. Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers has been week 1, week 5, and week 6. Now, week 1, Darrell Henderson really wasn't utilized, but if you look at week 5 and 6, Darrell Henderson's been getting 18 and 14 carries, and Malcolm Brown's only been 8 and 2. That's a little bit scary for me. I don't really like that at all, but at least the one positive for Malcolm Brown is he did get 4 targets last week, so averaging like 3 targets in those games is pretty good for him. I mean, I think he's going to get the carry. He's going to get at least some usage. I don't know how much is really warranted, but he's only $3,400. I do think there are some better, cheaper options down there that we're going to talk about when we get to the wide receivers, but I don't think Malcolm Brown's the worst thing in the world. Darrell Henderson Jr. isn't really getting a ton of usage in the passing game, but he's getting enough on the ground where it's fine. I don't really want to go to, I definitely don't want to go to Malcolm Brown at captain, but Darrell Henderson probably not either. He doesn't really have the usage for me to really want to go there. If I'm going for a running back captain, I would choose Montgomery over Henderson just because there is more usage there for him. Both of them have relatively the same matchup, honestly. I know that Montgomery's going to be playing from behind, but it's not like they're I think 5-point underdogs right now, so it's not really that big of a deal. It should be a close enough game. So I think Montgomery's more likely a captain than Henderson, but honestly, I may not even go to either of these guys at captain in lineups today. I don't think they're guys I'm interested really at all for that spot. Now we'll get to the wide receivers where, if it loads, we're going to start with Anthony Miller, Darnell Mooney, and Allen Robinson. We'll start with, Miller's $2,200 at flex, Darnell Mooney's $4,400, Allen Robinson's $10,000, Cooper Kupp $9,200. I did that backwards. Robert Woods is $9,000 and Josh Reynolds is $2,800. If Robert Woods was $2,800, man, that would be a value, wouldn't it? 100% owned there. So yeah, Reynolds $2,800, Robert Woods $9,000. When we go look at the overall matchup, so today Allen Robinson's got Jalen Ramsey, and who is one of the best, if not the best, cornerback in the league right now. He's been absolutely insane. He's just been one of the best in the league for a long time. And the Rams overall have allowed the second least amount of points to wide receivers so far this year. It's ridiculous, isn't it? They've just been playing out of their minds in the pass game, and it's just not looking like a good matchup at all. But we'll talk about Allen Robinson's usage in a second. And then you got on the other side, you got Cooper Kupp, Reynolds, and Woods. They're going to go up against a pretty good pass defense unit in Chicago as well. Chicago allows the 27th most points to wide receivers. It's two tough matchups. It's really just tough matchups everywhere in this entire game. They're just two really good defenses. But I will say that the individual matches for Cooper Kupp and Josh Reynolds are pretty good. Cooper Kupp gets Buster Screen, a slot who really hasn't been that great this year. And then Josh Reynolds on the outside. Jalen Johnson started out hot, but has kind of been struggling a little bit, so that one's okay. Robert Woods against what's his name? Kyle Fuller, that's a tough one, so that's a tough spot. And yeah, Allen Robinson against Jalen Ramsey, that's a tough spot. But I'm definitely interested in Robinson at captain because the usage he's getting is just ridiculous. Since Nick Foles has been back, last week was the first game he hasn't seen at least 10 targets, and he saw 9. That's still a ton. Averaging 11 targets per game right now. He's just been absolutely a usage hog on this team. But I think Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller are good plays as well. Mooney's been averaging 5 targets per game this year, and Anthony Miller's been averaging 4.33. The one thing for Anthony Miller is the snap percentage really hasn't been there, only been on the field 53% of the time, which is definitely not what I think a lot of people expected coming into the year. But at least when he's out there, he's going to use. So I think Anthony Miller at only $2,200 is just a huge value. And this is why I'm talking about, I was talking about Malcolm Brown on last slide. I don't think Malcolm Brown's great because, you just have some of these guys that are getting used in the passing game with touches that are, they score more points. So Anthony Miller definitely like that. Darnell Mooney averaging 5 targets per game. He's been on the field 60% of the time. It's a little more than Anthony Miller, and that's really skewed by week 1. But ever since week 1, he's really taken over more. So Darnell Mooney I definitely like as well, but Allen Robinson definitely the captain to go to. He's got a brutal matchup against Ramsey, but that usage is just so high. I'm actually very excited to just watch this one-on-one matchup all night. I want to see who's better. I'm really high on Allen Robinson. I think he's just a great wide receiver in this league. He's been underappreciated for years. But Jalen Ramsey, man, he's one of the best corners in the league. I don't know if you can see it up in the corner. There's my Jalen Ramsey jersey. He's one of my favorite players. So it's going to be a great game, great matchup. But yeah, Allen Robinson's still probably going to have him at captain in a little bit. And then Cooper Kupp as well is another one of my favorite captains. We just talked about the slot matchup against Buster Screen. That's pretty good. And then you have, looking at targets, he's averaging 7.5 targets per game. That's the most on his team. They're pretty good targets in the slot. We know Jared Goff loves using Cooper Kupp in the red zone and the end zone. He's definitely his favorite targets so far this year. Robert Woods averaging 6.833 targets per game. He's got a tough matchup with Kyle Fuller. If I'm going to a captain on his team, I'd rather go to Cooper Kupp, but Robert Woods is still a great captain, getting the usage. That's usage you want to get from Robert Woods to make him my captain. He's cheaper than Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, so there's a little bit of a discount. You can fit in more. He's definitely a viable captain. I prefer Kupp and Robinson. I think they're priced accordingly, but I think Robert Woods is still a really good option at captain. Honestly, he's probably my third favorite play at captain. Like, I think Robinson and Kupp are probably my top two, and probably Robert Woods is number three. And then Josh Reynolds is the other value guy. He's only $2,800. We saw him have a big touchdown last week on Sunday Night Football against 49ers. 3.5 targets per game for Josh Reynolds, but in the last few weeks, it's definitely gone up 5, 4, 4, 5. So that's good for him. And the snap percentage has gone up in the last few weeks as well, outside at 53% in week 4, 90, 72, and 83. So he's been on the field a lot. He's definitely going to get used. He's definitely getting some good usage. He looks like a pretty good receiver. I think Josh Reynolds is a pretty good wide receiver. I would not be surprised to see him get more utilized in the offense by the end of the year. But I think that's really all I got to say on the receivers. Let's go close this thing out with the tight ends. If it's going to load, I really just need to restart my laptop because it's really slow right now. Jimmy Graham, Demetrius Harris, and Cole Kmet are the tight ends for the Bears. And you got Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee are the tight ends for the Rams. When we go look at the matchup, overall it's going to be a positive spot for all these guys, but it looks really good for the Chicago Bears. I mean, the Rams linebacker group is really not that good. But, I mean, still, overall, looks like a pretty solid spot for both teams. I mean, honestly, the Bears, both these teams, their defenses struggle when it comes to linebackers. Like, great front line, great secondary. Linebackers are a little bit iffy on both teams. When you look at usage, Jimmy Graham's been really utilized in this offense, averaging 6 targets a game right now. If you take out that week 2, it's a lot more. So, Jimmy Graham's been really utilized in this offense, so that's definitely a spot I'd like to go to. Demetrius Harris is only $400. He's seen at least a target in every single game, averaging 1.6 a game. We've seen him get 3 targets twice this year. And when you go look at snap percentage for Demetrius Harris, I mean, he's on the field 44% of the time. It's not a lot, but it's better than Cole Kmet, who's more expensive than him. So Cole Kmet is honest. Like, if I'm going to play a cheap value tight end, Cole Kmet may be a fade. I mean, we've seen him have 2 games with 0 targets this year, playing less percentage of the snaps literally every single game. Like, every single game he's playing less than Demetrius Harris is. And Demetrius Harris is averaging more targets. I mean, we've seen Demetrius Harris have 2 games with more targets than Cole Kmet has had this year. So I think Demetrius Harris is probably the tight end to go to. I mean, he's only $400, and Kmet's like, what, 2,000? I mean, 1,000? 1,800 versus 400. Like, that's saving you. That can get you one more stud in your lineup. So, I mean, I don't hate that. And then the last tight ends, you have Everett and Higbee. Higbee's averaging 3.5 targets per game. Everett's averaging 2.166 per game. Higbee's too expensive for me. I mean, he's 6,800, something like that. And he is not getting utilized in the offense like a $6,200 player should, in my opinion. I think he's way too expensive. I was hoping he'd be a little bit cheaper like where Everett is. And I think Everett, honestly, might be a little too expensive, too. I mean, he's only averaging 2 targets per game, and he's on the field only 44% of the time on average. I mean, at least Higbee's out there, but he's used as a blocking tight end. The one thing I will say about Tyler Higbee is he does get most of his targets do come in like the red zone, the end zone, so that's good for him. But I still think he's just a little too expensive. Like, there's just guys I'd rather pay for around there. We'll see what happens when I'm starting to make lineups with lineup construction. He's more of a maybe for me at this point, but lean towards a no. I think Cole Kmet's going to be a no. I like Demetrius Harris, I like Jimmy Graham. I think Everett's probably going to be a no as well. But, yeah. And then last thing I'll say is, like, I don't usually talk about defense and kickers, but, like, this is a low-scoring game. Total's 45.5. Kickers are usually better in the low-scoring games just because there's more field goals, not as many touchdowns. So I definitely do like going to kickers, but I usually don't allow more than one of the kickers in a lineup, just one of them. And then same thing for defenses. I usually don't allow more than one defense in the lineup, and I usually don't allow my defense to play against my captain. But I don't think that really matters. That's just something I like to do. But yeah, defenses, I think they're both in play. I mean, it's just too low. It's just gonna be a low-scoring game. 2 really good front lines as well, like, Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack are on these teams. Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Fuller are on these teams. They're 2 really good defenses, so don't fade it. I wouldn't fade a defense today. There's definitely games I do like to fade a defense, but this is not one of them. I think that's really all I got to say, so thank you guys so much for checking this out. I hope you guys got some good information and some good quick plays for tonight's slate, and hope you guys have a great night and make some money.